So thank you very much. Thanks for staying on as we begin the final session of today, the first day of our Caribbean Internet Governance Forum. And if you look at your provisional agenda, you will be able to see that here we deal with updating the Caribbean Internet Governance Framework. I mentioned early on that one of the key products, one of the flagship products of this forum over the years has been the articulation and documentation of this policy framework, which we periodically update as priorities might change and technologies emerge over the years. Our current version is version 3. Well, I'll take it through a short presentation on that. In each of our CIGFs, we typically have at least one, sometimes two workshop sessions associated with the subject of internet governance. Sometimes it's related to, specifically like this one, to the Internet Governance Policy Framework. Other times it might be on some other matter. So what we would typically end up doing is have basically a workshop session. Sometimes it's work groups, sometimes it's in plenary, and we discuss and propose solutions for whatever is before us. In 2019, a year ago, when we held the 15th CIGF, we began in earnest the process of updating the current version of the Internet Governance Policy Framework. So for those of us who might not have been present at that time, what I will do is that I will, just a sec, let me just get the correct document here. What I'll do is give you a short recap of the work that was done before we kind of set up what we hope to do this year. So let me go on to Screenshare. And hopefully you would be seeing my screen, which is talking, beginning a discussion on reviewing the Caribbean Internet Governance Policy Framework, issue 3.0. Issue 3.0 was done in 2016. And to explain the document for those of us who might not have seen it before, I have like about 3 or 4 slides actually giving you what is contained therein. So our Caribbean Internet Governance Policy Framework is really a high-level policy advisory document that we developed from this CIGF forum over several years. It articulates a vision and a mission for internet governance in the Caribbean. Actually, the vision it articulates is for a Caribbean Internet Society. And then what is the role of internet governance in achieving that, in helping to achieve that? It includes policy-making principles and guidelines for policy development. And as I mentioned earlier, we have always focused or sought to identify and focus on Caribbean priority areas. So in that document, we found a way to put down the priority areas for the Caribbean under the realm of internet governance. And in that document also identified certain policy proposals. When it was done, we took it through the CTU hierarchy, which would be the CTU Executive Council, which is made up of senior government officials from all over the Caribbean, all our member states, and the CTU General Conference of Ministers. So it has been recommended as reference, as guidelines for national developments in terms of internet governance. This slide shows you what the table of contents of what it contains, and I think it gives you a good sense of what is in the document. It begins with a short introduction, and then it talks about the basis and aims of the policy framework, gives some background on internet governance generally. It has a statement of vision and a statement of mission, statement of vision for Caribbean Information Society, and a statement of mission for Caribbean internet governance. So the mission is more okay, so what do we do in order to work ourselves towards that articulated vision? And also specific guiding principles. After that, section 2, there's section 3, which actually looks at the policy framework itself. And it is in this section that certain policy statements or proposals are included. Looking at the scope of that policy framework, there are 6 subsections, and those 6 subsections are the Caribbean priority areas that were defined. The first of which was infrastructure for broadband connectivity. That statement, infrastructure for broadband connectivity, is an evolved statement. If I go back to the first issue of the policy framework, for example, it would have just talked about physical infrastructure. And I remember in the very early days, in like 2005 kind of thing, part of that infrastructure development wasn't only telecommunications. In 1 or 2 cases in certain of the countries of the Caribbean, they were also talking about electricity. You know, we would still looking at extending electricity ubiquitously to certain parts of these countries. So the 6 priority areas are infrastructure, which in today's world, we're talking about broadband connectivity. Then we're talking about internet technical infrastructure and operations. This is your DNS system and IPv4, IPv6, these types of technical systems. The third priority area is legal frameworks. And we actually had legal frameworks and enforcement. So that would deal with things like laws and cyber crimes and cybersecurity and that sort of thing. Internet content development and management, we've always had a stress on local content development. Public awareness and capacity building, that has always been a high priority and is an area that the CTU has done a lot of work in over the years, notably through the Caribbean ICT Roadshow. And then research in terms of measuring progress and research in terms of looking at trends coming down the pipeline as well. So apart from identifying the policy areas and including some policy prescriptions in there, or following that, we also looked at what's the operational structure for evolving this policy framework. What are some of the implementation steps that could be taken, measurement and monitoring, and provision for periodic review. So this document is available on the CTU website, this issue 3 document. You would go to the CTU website, ctu.int, and in the tabs across the top, you can look at projects, and they'll take you there to a internet governance page, and if you scroll down that page, there's access to this document and others. So, as I said, at last year's forum, we started reviewing this, and in particular with a focus on the vision statement and the mission and the guiding principles, to determine the extent to which maybe they need to be refined or revamped. As I might have said, issue 3 is the current version, and that was finally adopted at the 12th CIGF, which was held in Belize. And provision was made for periodic review. And as we make an issue of the policy framework, so for example, 2016, we put out issue 3, as changes or policy proposals come forward after that, we take them into consideration for inclusion in the following issuance of the policy framework. So since 2016, we've been soliciting feedback and comments from people, and all of these, sometimes as we're doing now through the medium of the CIGF, and any changes that we get or agreed will be taken into account into the next issue. We had initially planned to do issue 4 this year, but the delay in caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and so on, it looks like it would now not be before next year. So that gets me to the end of the explanation as to the document. And what I would go on to now is a suggestion as to how we progress the work. I need to share a different document. Okay, this one, I trust you all are able to see this Word document. What this document has is the status of the discussions from last year as regards the amendments being discussed to this policy framework document. I've split them out into 4 tables. Let me just see if I can make it even a little bigger so that it's a little easier to read for everyone. Right, so I've split them out into 4 tables. Am I getting a question? No, okay, at least not yet. Yeah, the first table relates to the vision statement, and that's the vision for Caribbean Internet Society, not Internet, Information Society. And this table has the existing statement in the issue 3 document, and 2 options, which were the ones that we had filtered it down to at the end of the last CIGF. The intention, as I'd mentioned, was for us to continue to do this intersessionally via discussion forums on the CTU website, but unfortunately that has not happened. So this is basically where we are, and we had narrowed it down to 2 competing options for a revised statement of vision. So that is recorded here in the first table in this Word document here. The second table explains the status of our discussions as regards the statement of mission for Caribbean Internet Governance. The table shows you what the existing statement is, and this is the existing always means as obtains in issue 3 of the policy framework, right? And later on in the table, we have statements of what proposed changes are in there. For those who are not so familiar with the international conventions, in the proposals here, wherever you see square brackets, it would have been words that might have been proposed and noted, but not agreed by consensus. So all the proposed word changes are included in square brackets for discussion, for further discussion and agreement. All right, so when you see what is in this document here, you can interpret what you're seeing appropriately. So for example, if I look at this third bullet here, which talks about ample supply and capacity for the creation, lawful use and distribution of Caribbean and other content and technologies, and then asking about non-Caribbean content. The word lawful is put in square brackets because maybe it was proposed to be removed, because I think it is there in the existing. Yes, it is there in the existing. So it would have been proposed to be removed, but not agreed to be removed. Distribution of Caribbean content, there was a suggestion to put in Caribbean and other content because maybe we want to deal with content from outside of the Caribbean as well. So this is how it is recorded. What is the status of the discussions, where suggestions have been made and made the board, but not necessarily fully agreed. So this is the current status of the discussions as regards the mission for Caribbean Internet Governance. And then we have Table 3. Table 3 relates to the guiding principles. This shows the existing statement of guiding principles. And then what are some of the proposals, again, inclusive of some square brackets. One note about the proposals here is that the proposals didn't really attempt to reach final wording as exists under the existing formulation, right? It tended to be a little more succinct in statement to try to get agreement on what are the principles to be put in, and then the appropriate wording will be formulated consistent with the principles that we want to put down there. So it's not a straight word for word comparison in this particular instance. In this particular instance, we're looking to see, okay, which are these main principles that need to be included, and to a certain extent, what should be the core statements. So I guess one needs to bear that in mind in looking at this particular one. So that was mission, vision, mission, and guiding principles. And then the statements of strategic priority areas. As I explained, there were 6: infrastructure for broadband connectivity, internet technical infrastructure, legal frameworks and enforcement, internet content, public awareness, and research. There were some recommended refinements to this as well. And again, not necessarily all the exact wording, but the intent was to get the principles agreed as to what would be included or not included. So there, in that sense, there are some square brackets here as well. So when we're all in one room together and can speak freely and informally and easily, it's possible to do a simple either plenary workshop or multiple groups dealing with different aspects of this amendment. But given that we are in this online format, where it will be a little more difficult for people to make interventions and throw suggestions, and there's much more propensity for people to collide in terms of trying to get the floor and so on. What I am proposing to do instead is probably, let us take it from the point of view of let's do some homework. So what we've done is this document, this Word document, which contains the current status of the discussions, we've created a Google document, which the link for which we will make available on the chat. All right, so we will, on the chat, there will be a link to this document in a Google Doc format where you can access it on the web and input your comments on that web-based version of the document. The format is such that we'll be able to see everyone's comments in one place, and then that will be used to, I guess, update the status of the discussions before we try to come to at least try to come to consensus, if not on the entire thing, on certain parts of the proposals here, either the vision or the mission or guiding principles or general priorities. So that's what we propose to do tomorrow afternoon around the same time, around the 3:30 kind of time frame. We have a second workshop session where it is proposed that we examine what are the comments that would have come in overnight related to this. So because it's a kind of a cold review, I think it's useful for us to look at it, remind ourselves as to where the discussions were, and take some quiet time in our own thinking to see what suggestions you might be able to include on that Google document. So I will stop here to see if there are any comments that people want to make. Let me stop sharing for a second. I need to get back to a place where I can see. Yes, if I look at the chat, the link has been posted in the chat, and I guess I'm open now to any comments from persons who might basically want to say anything. So you have an option here to either submit questions in the chat or try to raise hand, and we'll see if we could enable anyone to speak who might want to speak. Bear in mind that silence means consent, so if there's anything that's not clear or you want to suggest. Oh, okay. If I look at the chat, or someone asking if the youth participants are still here. I don't know. I'm doubting. Okay. All right. So I will take it to mean that silence means that my proposal is not unreasonable. Oh, Ms. Silo Chan is still on. That's the guild librarian who set up the thing. So yeah, I will take it to mean that my suggestion is a reasonable one. So I will ask that you review the document on the Google Docs. Richard, I think I'll ask you to also put that document on put that Google link on the website as well, on the web page of the CIGF, and ask you to enter and return your comments on the Google Doc itself, and we'll take up the second part of this workshop session tomorrow. I do not have anything else to add at this point, so if you will, let's see. Oh, and the suggestion is that we draw this to the attention of the youths as well. So I can do that. I can do that and get their inputs as regards the wordings on these documents. So I will look forward to your feedback and your comments. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll get back into the workshop session, and hopefully we'll be able to make some progress on consensus. All right, so I think I would want to leave it there. I will remind you that's if I look at my thing for tomorrow, my agenda for tomorrow, please God. Tomorrow, please God, we'll be starting at 9 o'clock. And we will begin with a short recap from today. And our first panel tomorrow, actually, we start looking at accelerating e-government. Tomorrow actually should be quite interesting in terms of the panel discussions that would be there. And then we would go into the workshop sessions in later tomorrow afternoon, probably slightly earlier, depending on how the panel goes. Maybe we could start the workshop session at around 3:15 instead of 3:30. All right, so I would say at this point, thank you very much, folks, for your participation today. I hope you found that it was rewarding, as rewarding for me as I hope it was as rewarding for you as it was for me. I have to say I'm happy to be successfully through the first day, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, please God. Same time, same channel at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
Okay.